In a world where power, secrets, and betrayal collide, some truths are better left buried. But what happens when the past claws its way back into the light? Dani Dupree is about to uncover a devastating secret that could tear her family apart forever. Bill Hamilton, her ex-husband, and Hayley, the woman who stole his heart, are hiding a dangerous truth, one that could destroy them all. Now, Dani must decide whether to expose the past, risking everything she's fought to protect, or stay silent and live with the consequences. But with each step, the danger grows, and Dani is no longer the one pulling the strings. This is the beginning of the end. Dani had always known Bill as her ex-husband, the man she had loved deeply and the father of her children. Their marriage had been full of passion, but ultimately fell apart after a series of betrayals that left her heartbroken. She never expected that, years later, Bill would resurface in her life, not as her partner but as the man who had taken her best friend, Hayley, into his arms. Dani had assumed that the worst of their relationship issues was behind them, that was, until Hayley's sudden threats began. Hayley had never been a typical woman. She had always carried herself with a certain level of power and control, something Dani envied and feared in equal measure. But it wasn't until recently that Dani began to suspect there was more to Hayley than met the eye. Hayley had always been cryptic when it came to discussing her past, especially her arrival in Bill's life. What Dani didn't know was that Hayley had been hiding a dark secret about Bill, a secret that had the potential to destroy him if it ever came to light. One day, while Bill was out on business, Hayley, with a cold smile, approached Dani. There was a certain smugness in the way she carried herself, as though she knew something Dani didn't. As the days went on, Dani's suspicion grew, and the hints became more subtle but unnervingly consistent. Bill's actions became erratic, and his once infallible confidence wavered around Hayley. Dani had been silent for so long, accepting her past with Bill as just that, the past. But when she overheard a hushed conversation between Bill and Hayley one evening, everything changed. Bill was being blackmailed. It wasn't about money or his reputation, but something far more dangerous, a crime from his past, a dark secret that he had buried for years. The information was damning. Bill had once been involved in a major criminal case, a case that had been conveniently swept under the rug. It involved a corruption scandal that Bill had helped to cover up, shielding a powerful figure in exchange for favors and loyalty. It wasn't just a simple mistake or lapse in judgment. This was a calculated, deliberate attempt to shield the guilty party and protect her reputation. If the truth were ever exposed, it would ruin Bill's life, his career, and his family. Hayley had known about this for months, long before she even entered Bill's life. She had learned about the crime through her own sources and had made sure that Bill knew she held all the cards. The blackmail started slowly at first, with subtle hints that Hayley could ruin him with a single phone call. But now, she wasn't just manipulating Bill, she was using Dani as a pawn in her game. She had begun to threaten Dani directly, playing on Dani's love for her children. At first, Dani thought it was all just Hayley's attempts to create chaos in her life. But when Hayley made a direct, chilling threat involving Dani's kids, it became clear that this was more than just a game. Dani, ever protective of her children, found herself cornered. Hayley had crossed a line, and Dani knew it was time to act. But how could she take on someone as ruthless as Hayley, someone who knew her weaknesses and fears all too well? Dani turned to Jacob Hawthorne for help. Jacob, the husband of Naomi and a skilled private investigator, had been on the fringes of Dani's life for some time, but they had never been close. But desperate times called for desperate measures. Dani knew that if she was going to uncover the truth behind Bill's criminal involvement, she needed Jacob's expertise. She arranged a secret meeting with him, explaining her suspicions about Bill's past and the connection to the criminal case. Jacob, ever the professional, agreed to help but warned Dani of the dangers they would face. He told her that if she pushed too hard, she could very well end up in a dangerous game of cat and mouse, one where the stakes were much higher than she had anticipated. As Dani began to dig deeper into the case, she uncovered startling details. She learned that Vernon Dupree, the former senator and father of her good friend Naomi, had been involved in the same web of corruption that Bill had helped conceal. Vernon, who had once been her ally in the political world, had been connected to a series of questionable deals involving major corporations, and Bill had been caught in the middle. But Dani had no idea just how deep this corruption ran. The more she uncovered, the more the pieces of the puzzle fell into place and the more terrifying the implications became. Dani realized that she was walking on a tightrope, balancing between exposing the truth and risking everything she held dear. The deeper she dug, the more she realized just how much was at stake. But she had no choice. Hayley's threats had left her with little room to maneuver. She had to find the truth, and fast. But as she continued her investigation, Dani found herself increasingly isolated. Nicole, her mother, and Anita, her close friend, began to voice their concerns. They feared that Dani was crossing a line, one that could endanger not only her but also her family. They urged her to stop, to let the past remain buried. But Dani was determined. She couldn't let Hayley win. She couldn't let Bill and Hayley use her children as leverage in their twisted game of power. As Dani's investigation deepened, she found herself entangled in a web of lies, betrayal, and danger. The pieces of the puzzle she was so desperate to solve began to come together, but with each revelation, the cost of the truth grew higher. Jacob Hawthorne, her reluctant ally, was proving to be invaluable in this quest for answers, but the tension between them grew. What had begun as a simple investigation soon became an obsession, an all-consuming drive to uncover every secret buried beneath the surface. Dani knew the stakes were high, but the deeper she dug, the more she realized that the truth might not just ruin Bill and Hayley's lives, it could destroy hers as well. The connection between Bill's corruption scandal and Vernon Dupree's involvement was more intricate than she could have ever imagined. The evidence was pointing to something far more sinister, a covert partnership between the Dupree family and a shadowy corporate entity that had manipulated the political landscape for years. In the quiet moments, as Dani sifted through documents and files with Jacob, she found herself questioning everything. The life she had built with her family, the love she had for her children, could she risk it all for the truth? Her thoughts were constantly interrupted by Hayley's threats, each one more chilling than the last. Hayley was no longer just threatening Dani's children, she was threatening to expose everything about Bill's past and with it, Dani's darkest secrets. The tension reached a breaking point one night when Hayley, sensing that Dani was closing in on the truth, decided to confront her directly. She showed up at Dani's home, her eyes gleaming with a predatory confidence. Dani was blindsided. She had always underestimated Hayley's ruthlessness, assuming that her former friend would be content to simply enjoy her life with Bill. But this was no longer about love or friendship. It was about power. Hayley's voice was cold as she spoke, her words laced with venom. She knew everything about Dani's investigation, every document she had uncovered. Dani's heart pounded in her chest as Hayley revealed that she had been tracking her every move. "You think you can expose Bill, but you're just digging your own grave," Hayley warned, her smile twisted into something dark and malicious. "You're playing a dangerous game, Dani. And if you keep digging, I will make sure that you and your family pay the price." Dani's hands shook as she listened to Hayley's threats. She had always been strong, independent, and willing to fight for what was right. But now, she was facing an enemy she had never anticipated, someone who was willing to use her children, her past, and every secret she had ever kept to destroy her. Hayley had become her greatest adversary, and Dani realized, with a sickening clarity, that she was no longer in control of the situation. Desperation set in. Dani knew she couldn't back down, not after everything she had uncovered. She had to protect her family, no matter the cost. But how could she protect them when she was the one being blackmailed? When every move she made seemed to push her further into Hayley's grasp? Jacob, too, was starting to realize the gravity of the situation. What had begun as a simple investigation into Bill's past had spiraled out of control. Now, Dani was no longer just dealing with a criminal cover-up, she was playing with fire. Jacob knew that if they didn't act quickly, Dani would lose everything, including her freedom. With time running out, Jacob devised a plan to get to the bottom of the case without tipping off Hayley or anyone else. It was risky, but it was the only chance they had. Dani would have to confront Bill, force him to admit his involvement in the scandal, and finally expose the truth. But how could she get to Bill when he was so deep in Hayley's grasp, when his loyalty was being manipulated by a woman who knew his darkest secrets? The tension between Dani and Bill reached its boiling point when she finally sat him down, demanding answers. Bill's face was a mask of guilt and fear as Dani confronted him about the years of lies, the corruption, and his involvement in the cover-up. For the first time, Dani saw Bill for who he truly was, a man broken by his own choices, trapped in a life he had built on deception. But Bill was not going to let the truth come out so easily. He fought back, pleading with Dani to understand, to forgive him. He claimed that he had done what he had to do to protect their family, to protect their future. But Dani wasn't listening anymore. The man she had once loved was gone, replaced by a stranger who had sacrificed everything for power and control. "I've been living in the shadows for too long, Dani," Bill confessed, his voice shaky. "I never meant for it to go this far. But now it's too late." Dani's heart broke. She had loved this man, had trusted him with everything. But now, as the truth unraveled before her, she realized that she had been living in a lie. Everything she had built, everything she had fought for, was built on a foundation of corruption and betrayal. As she stood there, facing Bill and the overwhelming weight of the secrets they had both kept hidden, Dani realized there was no turning back. The investigation had become a ticking time bomb, and no matter how much she tried to keep her family safe, it was clear that the fallout would be catastrophic. Hayley, ever the puppet master, was watching from the shadows. Dani had unknowingly played into her hands, and now the final pieces were falling into place. If Dani couldn't stop Hayley, if she couldn't expose the truth in time, then everything, her family, her future, and everything she held dear, would be lost. As the final moments of Dani's investigation unfold, the walls close in on her, and the tension escalates to an unimaginable climax. She stands at the precipice of a decision that will forever change the course of her life, her family's future, and the fragile relationship she's desperately trying to protect. The truth is out there, hidden in the shadows of Bill's past, a past filled with lies, betrayal, and dark dealings. Dani has come so far, uncovering the twisted connections between Bill, Hayley, and the dangerous web of corruption that ties them all together. But with every piece of the puzzle she fits into place, the stakes grow higher. The more Dani unravels, the more she realizes the depth of the deception. Bill's involvement in the criminal world is not just a small misstep, it's a full-blown conspiracy that could destroy everything she holds dear. And yet, in the quiet moments, Dani wonders if she's digging too deep. Is exposing Bill's dark secrets worth the price of her own peace? What will happen when the truth finally comes to light? In the days leading up to the final confrontation, Dani is faced with her own demons, the anger, the hurt, and the betrayal that she thought she had buried with her divorce from Bill. But now, those emotions resurface, and they threaten to consume her. It isn't just Hayley's manipulations that haunt Dani, it's her own fear. What if, in the pursuit of truth, she loses everything she's fought for? What if, by exposing Bill's crimes, she loses her family's trust and love? Her children, her friends, and even her own sense of self-worth, all of it could crumble beneath the weight of a secret too heavy to carry. As Dani finally confronts Bill, she sees a man she no longer recognizes. The man who once held her heart, the man who was her partner in life, has become someone entirely different. He's broken, trapped in the web of lies he created, and powerless to escape. His pleas for forgiveness fall on deaf ears. Dani, despite everything, still loves him, but love isn't enough to undo the damage he's done. It's too late for second chances. Bill begs Dani to stand by him, to help him fix the mess he's made. But Dani knows that this isn't just about saving Bill. It's about saving herself, her children, and the life she deserves to live. She knows that she cannot protect Bill anymore, not when the truth is this dangerous. If she lets him go, she will be free to rebuild her life, but it comes with a price. A price she's afraid she's not ready to pay. The scene shifts to Hayley, who watches the entire exchange from the shadows, knowing full well that Dani is now on the brink of a decision that will change everything. Hayley smiles, but it's not a smile of victory, it's a smile of knowing that she holds all the cards. She's won. Dani is at her mercy, and she knows it. But what Hayley doesn't expect is that Dani, despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, still has a fire within her. And that fire is about to ignite. With the truth on the table, Dani makes her choice, and she makes it alone. She will expose everything. She will tear down the empire that Bill and Hayley have built. The damage will be catastrophic, but Dani knows that it's the only way forward. The lies have held her hostage for far too long. No more. The truth will set her free, even if it costs her everything she thought she knew. As the video draws to a close, we see Dani standing tall, her face a mixture of defiance and sorrow. She's made her decision. The secret is out. And now, it's time to face the consequences. The final words linger in the air: the truth may destroy us all, but it will never keep us silent. The screen fades to black.